A symbolic individual gesture, but from the French president today, a universal message to the British people.
To you, she was your queen. To us, she was the queen. To us all, she would be with us forever.
At NATO, the flags of 30 nations flew at half-mast for a monarch with consummate diplomatic skills, who managed to rise above politics and help turn adversaries into allies.
Deutschland blickt voller Dankbarkeit auf die Queen, die neben vielen anderen auch dafür stand, dass sich die einstigen Kriegsgegner Großbritannien und Deutschland wieder aussöhnen konnten.
That was a role she relished all her life, not least in Moscow after the end of the Cold War, when she dined with the Russian President Boris Yeltsin in the Kremlin.
You and I have spent most of our lives believing that this evening could never happen. I hope that you are as delighted as I am to be proved wrong.
С ее именем
Today, Russian television reported a message of condolence from President Putin in which he praised the Queen's authority and wished King Charles well. And Russians brought flowers to the British embassy, even though the two countries are enemies over Ukraine.
Несмотря на то, что сейчас, конечно, происходит, для нас королева и монаршеский дом всегда были олицетворением мира, добра.
She was the first British monarch to go to China, visiting the Great Wall back in 1986 after a trip to the then colony of Hong Kong, and walking amongst the terracotta warriors. Today, President Xi overcame recently fractious relations to send sympathy to the British people. A 96-gun salute in Canberra this morning. Maybe it's in Commonwealth countries like Australia where the Queen's death will be felt most keenly.
There is comfort to be found in Her Majesty's own words. Grief is the price we pay for love. This is a loss we feel deeply in Australia.
In another great ship which she also launched, HMS Vanguard,
in 1947, she had fun playing deck games on the way to Cape Town, where on her 21st birthday she made a serious pledge to the Commonwealth, founded as the British Empire crumbled.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
accorded a superb umbrella befitting her high rank.
She visited newly independent Ghana in 1961 in defiance of advisers who said the trip was too dangerous and the government too socialist. And she danced with President Kwame Nkrumah, a gesture recently recreated in the Netflix series The Crown. Today, the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta called on military officers to stand for a moment's silence in honour of the Queen. But times are changing. Last year, Barbados became a republic, discarding the monarch as head of state while remaining a member of the Commonwealth. Then Prince Charles was keen to address the most negative aspects of the colonial legacy.
From the darkest days of our past and the appalling atrocity of slavery, which forever stains our history, the people of this island forged their path with extraordinary fortitude.
Today in Jamaica, some said that now the Queen has gone, they too no longer want a monarch as head of state.
Let's hope. You know, down with the monarchy, whatever. We don't need kings and queens anymore.
The Queen knew how to send a subtle message to other monarchs. When King Abdullah of Saudi Arabia came on a state visit, she insisted on personally driving him around Balmoral in her Land Rover, well aware that women were not permitted to drive in Saudi. She met most American presidents, forming an especially strong bond with Ronald Reagan as they both loved horses. President Biden met her last year. He and his wife Jill signed the condolence book at the embassy in Washington.
She was a great lady. We're so delighted we got to meet her.
In 2007, the Queen took her eldest son to meet Commonwealth leaders in Uganda. Through the Second World War, the end of the colonial era and beyond, Queen Elizabeth II enhanced Britain's reputation around the world. King Charles III has a daunting task as he tries to continue her legacy.
Now, I sat down earlier with the former Secretary of State and presidential candidate and Senator John Kerry, who's now, of course, also President Biden's envoy on climate change. And I began by asking him for his memories of the Queen.
Well, my personal memories actually go back many years because my mother lived for a few years in Sussex and in Kent and was a huge Anglophile. So she and some of my aunts would actually get up at 4 in the morning to watch the Queen's speech.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I'm telling you.
Did they get you up as well?
No. Had the privilege of meeting her a number of times, most recently at Windsor Castle. I met her and she looked up with a great smile on her face and said, "I've seen you on television."
To which you responded?
To which I should have responded, "I've seen you on television too." But I was more reserved.
As one is, indeed, yeah.
As one is.
How important do you think she in particular, was to the image of Britain around the world, and especially in America?
Huge. I mean, in many ways, one of the greatest assets of Great Britain. She was beloved around the world, and you know, she had an ability to be a convener in her own quiet way, and also to make her point of view kind of known without abusing the process or getting over any lines. I think she was a great statesperson. I mean, you think of all the nations she traveled to, all the people she touched. Just look at the world outpouring right now.
But was she the asset, or was the monarchy the asset? Was it the crown, or was it the Queen?
Well, I think it's a combination. I mean, you know, the crown has its own power, as you, I'm confident, know.
One of the reasons why the Queen was so successful as a monarch was her inscrutability. We never really knew what she thought politically. We do know about quite a few issues what King Charles thinks politically, including climate change. Do you think that's a good thing for the cause that you also care deeply about?
I think it is inevitable that anyone, constitutional monarch, president, prime minister, is going to increasingly have to summon their nation to the task of dealing with this transition to a clean energy economy and to avoid the worst consequences of the climate crisis.
This goes beyond politics, you're saying?
It's beyond politics. It is not, it doesn't have a Tory label or a Labour label or Republican or Democrat, but climate is a deeply moral issue because it is dividing North and South. It is a matter of justice to a lot of people. I mean, 80% of all the emissions that are causing the problem are coming from 20 countries. And so we have to summon ourselves to come to the table. I think His Majesty can do that without crossing any lines, but that's up to others, obviously, to decide, and up to him, basically.
But why do you think a monarch representing, you know, an ancient medieval institution, he wasn't elected by the people, he was, you know, he's there by the divine rights of monarchy, as it were. Why do you think he in particular should have influence on this very modern issue?
Well, let me just say, first of all, that obviously Her Majesty, the Queen, helped transform the monarchy in many ways and modernized it. And there are many different ways in which we govern ourselves around the planet. People choose different ways and different systems. Her Majesty, the Queen, clearly weighed in on some things very carefully and had an impact. And I think back to South Africa and apartheid and, you know, among other things. What we have in climate, obviously, is a global existential challenge for the planet. And His Majesty has understood that and been engaged in that for years and years. I personally hope he is able to continue to be a voice on that, but that's up to him and obviously the palace in the future. There are times when this nation has been addressed by their monarch to address a particular feeling or a particular moment. And in that, you can help shape the direction of a country. And I think that the Queen's speech or her moments of the Christmas address and other things usually touch somehow on some aspect of life. And I think that can be an important part of helping to define a nation and encourage that nation to move in a certain direction.
I hear you.
Thank you.
Secretary Kerry, thanks very much.